Good morning, friends. Welcome to the lecture of real analysis. In the last lecture, we have seen the proof of theorem for integrability of difference of two functions, and we have proved that the difference of two bounded integrable function is bounded, and the difference is integrable as well. The second theorem we have started. Okay, 3 points to prove actually in the theorem. One we have proved. Let us write the theorem and we will start again. Right. The theorem we want to prove is about the integration taken where C is the point in between the closed interval AB. Then the aim is to prove that if the function is integrable over closed interval AB, then it is integrable from A to C and C to B. Reversely, if it is integrable from A to C and C to B, then we have to prove that it is integrable on closed interval A to B. And finally, in the third step, we have to prove integration A to B is equal to integration A to C plus C to B. Let me write a statement. If a bounded function, F is integrable on closed interval AB, then it is also integrable on closed interval AC and CB, where C is the point of closed interval AB. Okay, this is the first statement we have written. The second is exactly reverse of the first. That is, if F is bounded and integrable, on closed interval A to C and closed interval C to B, then it is bounded or it is also integrable. Whenever we are saying integrable, it is equally true that the function is bounded. It is also integrable on closed interval AB. Okay, and in the third step, we want to prove in either case, integration A to B f dx is equal to integration A to C f dx plus integration C to B f dx, where C is the point lying between A and B. Okay. In the last lecture itself, we have seen the proof of this first statement. That is, assuming the function is integrable on closed interval A, B, we have proved that it is integrable on A to C and C to B. I will just recall the proof of the first statement because the proof of second depends on this. Okay. The first step 1, I will write the proof also because yesterday's file was missing. Therefore, let me complete. Given that F is bounded and integrable on closed interval AB, and our aim is to prove that F is integrable on closed interval AC and CB, right? Okay, therefore for every epsilon greater than 0, we will assume one partition, and as the function is assumed to be integrable on this interval, therefore we can write the condition of integrability. Therefore, let me write for epsilon greater than 0, there exists a partition P of closed interval AB such that, yes, hello,
मॅम.
हाँ बोला.
स्क्रीन पण नाही दिसत आहे आणि आवाज पण नाही येत आहे नीट.
माझ्याकडे तर दिसते स्क्रीन. कोणालाच नाही दिसत आहे स्क्रीन.
मॅम यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल.
दिसत आहे मॅम.
And you are also audible, ma'am.
Not audible.
You are audible, ma'am.
No, I am audible.
Yes, ma'am, your video is paused.
Whoever is speaking, maybe you have an internet issue because here it is showing me clearly. Hmm? Here it is showing everything fine. No pause. Okay, shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
For every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a partition P of the closed interval A B such that, what such that I am going to write the condition of integrability. UPF minus LPF is less than epsilon. Which form of condition of integrability? This will be
Second form.
second form. Good. Second form of condition of integrability. Now what we have done in the last lecture for this proof, we have written the refinement. Refinement we have written by adding a single point extra, that is P, that is C, right? Like P star is the refinement of P such that, what such that P star is P union singleton C, where C belongs to closed interval AB. Okay. Also, we know the relation between the sums regarding the partition and its refinement, and the relation we know is LPF is less than or equals to LP star F, less than or equals to UP star F, less than or equals to UP. Yeah, this is the relation we know. Now we will divide the relation between the two different inequalities, that is LPF is less than or equals to LP star F. Similarly, UP star F is less than or equals to UPF. Next, we will add the two inequalities. Okay, adding the two inequalities. What this addition will give us? LPF plus UP star F is less than or equals to LP star F plus UPF, right? Therefore, which actually gives us UP star F minus LP star F is less than or equals to UPF minus LPF. But UPF minus LPF we have written already less than by epsilon from 1, right? Because the function is given to be integrable on closed interval AB. Therefore, if this left hand side is less than epsilon, left hand side is also less than by epsilon. Therefore, one can write UP star F minus LP star F is less than by epsilon. What is P star we have assumed? Let me write again. P star is, already we have one partition of a closed interval AB. C is the point we have added extra. Therefore, this is what P star we have denoted. Now, in order to prove the function is integrable on A to C and C to B, what we will do? We will collect the points between A to C and we will call it as P1. We will collect the points between C to B and we will call it as P2. And from the sketch itself, one can clearly say that P star is the union of the two partitions P1 and P2. Okay. Therefore, let me write, let P1, P2 denote the sets of points of P star between AC and CB respectively. Correct? Okay. Therefore, one can say P1 and P2 are the partitions of AC and CB. Therefore, one can write P star is P1 union P2. Okay. Then what will be relation between the upper sums of P star, P1 and P2? Can you even tell me? Relation between upper sum of P star, upper sum with respect to P1 and upper sum with respect to P2. Yesterday itself we have written, na?
Less than equal to.
Everywhere it is not possible to have a less than or equals to, right? Nah.
No, ma'am.
Look
Equality,
at this.
and that is addition of that.
Good. This is equal to an addition. Upper sum on this P star is addition of upper sum on P1 and P2. Why? Because P star is P1 union P2. Correct now? Similarly, one can write it for LP star. LP star F is LP1F plus LP2F. Okay. Now let me call this above equation equality to be number 2, say, and let me write this as 3 and 4. Right. Now what we are going to do, as we know UP star f minus LP star f is less than epsilon, to construct this we will take a subtraction of 3 and 4. Subtracting 4 from 3, which will give us UP star f minus LP star f is equal to, see, while writing we will write the sums corresponding to P1 in one bracket. Therefore this is UP1f, LP1f added with UP2f minus LP2f. Okay. Now this sum UP star f minus LP star f is less than epsilon. Therefore may I say both the values, these two brackets, sum of the two brackets is less than epsilon. Therefore UP1f minus LP1f. Or here only I can write this is less than by epsilon. If it is less than by epsilon, these are the two non-negative brackets. Sum of two non-negatives is less than epsilon. Therefore individual bracket is less than epsilon. We have seen the detailed proof in the last lecture. This is just I am repeating. Therefore, looking at the two conditions, what we have proved, upper sum with respect to P1 minus lower sum with respect to P1 is less than epsilon. Therefore, this gives us the function f is integrable on, yes, on which interval?
A to C.
A to C.
Yes, integrable on A to C, and similarly with respect to P2 also condition of integrability satisfied, and therefore this is integrable on C to
C to B.
C. Okay. Therefore, assuming the function is integrable on closed interval A to B, we have proved that it is integrable on A to C and C to B. Now we will go to step number 2. In this step, we are going to prove the reverse part. Okay. Therefore, we will assume that is integrable on A to C, C to B, and the aim is to prove it is integrable on AB. Right? It is given that f is integrable on A to C and C to B. Right? What to prove in this case? Students, what to prove?
F is integrable on closed interval AB.
Good. F is integrable on closed interval AB. Already we have made two different partitions of P1 and P2. Two different partitions P1, P2 of P star. Okay. Therefore, let us write the conditions of integrability with respect to these two intervals. Therefore, let me write for epsilon greater than 0, we can find partitions. Partitions P1, P2 of what? AC and CV respectively, such that, what such that? You like the condition of integrability. What the condition of integrability will tell us? UP1f minus LP1f less than by epsilon. Similarly, UP2f minus LP2f is also less than by epsilon. Combinedly, let me call it as, what is the next number? 3, 4 we have used, I think. Let me write 5. And this is by second form of
Integrability.
yes, second form of condition of integrability. Second form of condition of integrability. Now what we have done? What we have done here? This is the original interval A to B. C is the point in between. On A to C we have assumed a partition P1. On C to B we have assumed a partition P2. Right? And now what we will write? We will write P star to be union of P1 and P2. Let P star be P1 union P2. Therefore, may I say is a partition on which interval? Yes?
Closed interval A to B.
Yes, it is a partition on the closed interval A to B. Okay. But what we have proved already, a relation between these sums, UP star f is UP1f plus UP2f. Similarly, LP star f is equal to LP1f plus LP to F. Okay, now in order to prove that the function is integrable on closed interval a to b, what should I prove? Condition of integrability with respect to p star one has to prove, right now? That is up star f minus lp star f we want to prove as less than by epsilon. Correct now? Therefore, let me consider the condition of integrability. What condition of integrability on p star is up star f minus LP star f. Now, therefore, what is the value? From these two, we have to take a subtraction. Therefore, this is UP1F minus LP1F added with UP2F minus LP2F. But already it is given that the function is integrable on A to C and C to B, and we have written the condition of integrability as well, less than by epsilon and less than by epsilon. Therefore, may I say these two brackets will be less than epsilon. Epsilon plus epsilon, now it becomes 2 epsilon, na? But what we want to adjust?
Epsilon by 2.
Epsilon by 2.
Here what should I do? Here I should write epsilon by 2, epsilon by 2. Not necessary to write epsilon by 2 always. One can write epsilon by 4, epsilon by 3. You can adjust the terms accordingly. Therefore, here it will be epsilon by 2, epsilon by 2. It is epsilon. Therefore, we have proved the condition of integrability is true on a partition P star of closed interval AB. Therefore, what we can say? Thus, function f is
Integrable on closed interval
Integrable
AB.
on closed interval AB.
good. Function f is integrable on closed interval AB. Point number 2 also we have proved. Now, what we want to prove in the third step? Integration.
Integration A to B
equals
f
to
dx
integration
is
of
equal
A
to
to C plus
integration A to
integration
C.
of C to B.
Good. This is what we want to prove. Okay. Now, in order to prove this statement, no doubt we are going to prove this again in two different inequalities going in opposite direction. That is, first we will prove the relation between the two parts, left part and right part, to be greater equal, and then we will prove less equal, so that equality is going to hold. Okay. Now, in order to prove the first part of the inequality, one has to understand the relation between the infima values of a function and their addition as well. Because here on the right we have an addition. Na? Therefore, here I'll just ask you a question. If we have, suppose, for any functions S and T, I'll use some different symbol. For any functions S and T, if I will write W is equal to S plus T, then what is the relation between inferior W and inferior S plus inferior T or infima T? Can anyone tell me a relation? What would be a relation here? Less equal, greater equal, exactly equal. Because once we understand this relation, we can apply this for proving one of the inequality. Can anyone tell me the relation?
Infimum of W is greater than infimum of S plus infimum of T.
Greater or greater equal it is?
Greater equal.
Greater equal it is. Okay. If you want to understand in a simple way, you can write like this also. Suppose we have two functions written, na? S and T. If suppose K1 is the infima, then one can write K1 is less than or equal to Sx. Suppose K2 is the infima for T of x, then this is less than or equals to T of x. Correct? Okay. Therefore, one can say K1 plus K2 is less than or equals to S of x plus T of x, which one can write as S plus T operated on x. Therefore, K1 plus K2 now becomes a lower bound for the function S plus T. But we don't know whether it is greatest lower bound, that is infima. Okay, therefore, if K is infima of S plus T, then what would be a relation here? K and K1 plus K2. K is infima, that is greatest lower bound, and this will be arbitrary lower bound. Na? Therefore, the obvious relation is going to hold greatest lower bound is greater equal by the arbitrary lower bound. That is what I have written here. Infima W is less equal by infima S plus infima T. Okay. If you have a doubt still, you can ask me. I hope there is no doubt in this relation. Okay. Now knowing this relation that inferior W is greater or equal by inferior S plus inferior T, now we will go for the partitions P1, P2 we have made of AC and CB, and P star we have written to be P1 union P2. Okay. Now for any partitions P1, P2 of closed interval AC and CB respectively, if P star is P1 union P2, then what we have written then, a relation between their upper sums is U P star yeah, is equal to U P1 yeah, plus U P2 yeah. Right? Now this is the function for different values for different partitions of the closed interval AB. This will give us this will generate number of upper sum. Similarly, for different partitions P1, P2 of A to C and C to B, it will generate number of sums. Therefore, now what we will do, for every term we will take the inferior values. Okay. Therefore, now taking infima of the partitions, infimum of all partitions, we get infimum of all partitions, we get inferior UP star here. What is relation? You have to tell me. Inferior UP1F plus inferior UP2F. Okay. For different values of partitions, it will give you one sum. For different values of partitions, it will give you one. Means you can treat these upper sums as one function itself, and using this relation now. For every value, for WSMT are the functions, then for every value of x, this inferior gives us the relation inferior W is greater or equal by inferior S plus inferior T. Therefore, here what would be a relation? UP star F is addition of two functions. If I call, then this is greater equal. And what is inferior of the upper sums?
Integration A to B f dx.
Upper integral it is, no? Correct, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Inferior upper sum is upper integral. P star is a partition on A to B. Therefore, we have written what is the partition P1? What is the interval?
Integration of A to C f dx.
Upper integral A to C.
And here it is upper integral
C to
C to B.
to B. Correct? But what we have proved already, the functions are integrable on AB, AC and BC. Therefore, these upper integrals are equal to their actual
lower
integral.
integrals.
Right now? Yeah, lower integral is equal to actual integration. Since f is integrable on AB, AC and CB, correct? We will write these upper integrals is exactly equal to their integration. Therefore, I will write, I will remove this upper integral. I will write integration A to B of dx is greater or equal by integration A to C of dx plus integration C to B f dx. Let me call this to be next statement number. I usually forgot the statement number. Right. This is 6. Right? One part of the inequality we have proved. Right now? Greater or equal we have proved. Integration A to B f dx is greater or equal by the right part. Now it is the time to prove the left part. Now to prove the left part, what is the trick we are using? Replacing f by minus f.
Minus F.
Proceeding with minus f in place of f, we get. What we get? If I proceed with this, I will just replace. Now, what will happen if I multiply the inequality by the negative symbol? Inequality reverses. Now, observing 6 and 7, we have proved both the inequalities going in opposite direction, right now? Therefore, equality holds. From 6 and 7, integration a to b f dx is exactly equal to integration a to c f dx plus integration c to b f dx. Okay, hence the proof of this theorem. Any doubt on this theorem? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Good. Okay, now what we have done up to now, we have proved the integrality of addition of two functions. We have proved the integrability of difference of two functions. Also, we have proved the integrability by taking one point in between the interval. Okay, now in the next point, we are going for the integrability of product, quotient and modulus of the integrable function. I'll write the heading integrability of product, quotient and modulus of integrable functions. Actually, this point what we have proved just now, we have used it now many times. Integration a to b of dx is integration a to c plus c to b. We have used up to our graduation also, many times we have used it. But this is the first time we have seen the proof, that is true by the Riemann integration theory. Correct, na? And it is always interesting to know the proof of the statements we have used. Okay, now in this section, we are going for proving the integrability of product of two functions, quotient of two functions and modulus of the given function. But before proceeding to the exact main theorem of proving the integrability, we have to prove one lemma which will help us to prove the main theorems. I think you know what lemma is. Lemma, corollary and statement theorem. What is the difference? Can anyone tell? Students, what is the difference between lemma, theorem and corollary? Do you know? Hello?
No, ma'am.
No. Why we are calling lemma, not theorem? Lemma is the oscillations of a bounded function here on an interval. What is oscillations? We have seen somewhere a definition.
Fluctuations, ma'am.
Yes, fluctuations. And actually this is the difference between the function values, right now? Now we are proving oscillations of a bounded function here on the closed interval AB is the supremum of the set. Supremum of the set. The set is mod of fx1 minus fx2. x1, x2 belongs to the closed interval AB of numbers. Quickly, I will tell you the meaning of lemma, theorem and theorem. We know theorem is the any statement which we are proving. And what is corollary? Corollary is like a product of your theorem, right now. That is by using the statement of main theorem, we are proving the corollary. Therefore, this is the byproduct of the main theorem. But lemma is the statement we are using for proving the main theorem. Okay, that is lemma is before theorem. Corollary is after theorem. Now this is the lemma, that is this is a theorem we are proving we are using to prove the product of integrability of the integrability of product of two functions, right? Therefore, this is the statement we are proving before the main theorem. This using this statement we are proving our main theorem. That's why the name is lemma. Lemma is a statement required to prove the main theorem. Corollary is a statement proved from the theorem. Okay. Let us come to the statement. The statement says that oscillations of a bounded function f on an interval AB is the supremum of this set. Supremum of this set means least upper bound of this set. What the set is? It is the difference between the two function values with a modulus symbol. And whatever is the supremum, that is least upper bound of this function, will be the oscillations of the bounded function. Yeah. Okay. That is oscillations of a bounded function. What is oscillation of a bounded function? Oscillations of the bounded function is difference between suprema and infima.
Infima.
Right. Therefore, what is the oscillation? M minus M, I can say capital M minus small m. And we want to prove that oscillation is the supremum of this set. Okay. Therefore, I will write let capital M and small m be suprema and infima of F on closed interval AB. Of closed interval AB. Then what to prove actually? Suprema of this set mod fx1 minus fx2 provided x1, x2 belongs to closed interval AB is equal to capital M minus small m. This is what we want to prove. And whenever we want to prove suprema is this number, means this is the least upper bound. Okay. But anyhow, first we have to prove this as an upper bound of the set, and then we will prove that that upper bound is least among all the upper bound, among existing upper bounds. Okay. Is the theorem clear to everyone? What we want to prove?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let us proceed. As we have assumed capital M and small m be the suprema and infima, therefore may I write that any function value is greater or equal by small m and any other function value is less equal by capital M. Therefore let me write m less than or equals to fx1 and fx2 is less than or equals to capital M. Why I have used the symbol? Because here x1, x2 was denoted. Okay. And this is for all x1, x2 in the closed interval AB. Okay. Infima, any function value is greater or equal by infima and any function value is less equal by its suprema. Okay. Now what we will do? We will add these two inequalities. What will happen if adding? Sorry, fx2. Okay. Therefore, now we will shift function values on one side. Okay, and supremas, infimas on one side. I can write fx2 minus fx1 less than or equals to m minus m. Correct now? What we have proved with this? Whatever is the nature of left hand side is positive or negative is less than or equals to capital M minus small m. Therefore, may I write mod of fx2 minus fx1 less than or equals to m minus m. What we want to write prove fx1 minus fx2. Can I change the positions as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we are in the modulus. Okay, what we have proved then? This is for all x1, x2 in closed interval AB. Every element in this set is less equal by m minus m. Therefore, may I say m minus m will be the upper bound? Correct, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Capital M minus m is an upper bound of the set. next what we want to prove? This is least upper bound. Now how should I prove this is least among all the existing upper bounds? What is the way with us to prove? To prove that this is least among all the upper bounds, what we will do? We will try to subtract something on the left, something on the right part, m minus m, and we will prove that it will not be an upper bound. If I subtract the small number, say epsilon, from the right hand side, then we have to prove that this will not be an upper bound if we subtract a small positive quantity. This is what the aim is. Now to do this, what we will start? We will start with epsilon positive, because epsilon I want to subtract from the right side. Okay, let epsilon greater than 0 be given number. Okay, to prove this, now what I am going to do is, as I know that capital M is the suprema, here I will write as capital M is suprema of F in closed interval AB. Therefore, may I write f of x is less than or equals to capital M for all x in the closed interval AB. Correct now? Now we are considering this inequality for all x in the closed interval AB. How many elements are there in this closed interval AB?
Infinite.
Infinite number of elements will be there. Therefore, we can assume that there exists at least one x. There exists at least one x in the closed interval AB, such that difference between the two numbers fx and m is less than epsilon by 2. Okay. Therefore, here I can say there exists. We can say, or we can assume that there exists one number, say x dash in closed interval AB, such that, what such that? M fx dash is the value we will select which is closer to m. I will show you by sketch also. This is my function. Okay. Somewhere here is the suprema value, right now? Somewhere here is the suprema capital M. This is the function f of x, and this is the closed interval a and b under the consideration. There are infinite number of points between a and b. Here is my m value, right? Here is my m value. Now what we are doing? We are finding one number. Okay, one number, say x dash, such that the difference between this fx dash value and m, means this difference is less than by epsilon by 2. Here this is fx dash. Now we are interested in finding the number fx dash such that the difference between m and fx dash is less than by epsilon by 2. Now the selection is in our hand. We are selecting one x dash, okay, such that m minus fx dash is less than epsilon by 2. I hope there is no confusion with the element x dash to be selected. Okay. Therefore, from this statement, what I will write? I will write m minus or fx dash is greater than m minus epsilon by 2. Fx dash is greater than by m minus epsilon by 2. I will call this as statement number 2. Now the same thing we will repeat for the infima as well. Same thing I will repeat for infima. Similarly, there exists x double dash in the closed interval AB such that, what such that? We know m is always less equal by fx dash. Therefore, we will find out the difference between the two. Okay. Therefore, I will find out f x double dash minus m is less than by epsilon by 2. Okay, I'll draw another sketch on this slide. Because this is the curve under the consideration a to b f of x. Where is the infima? Here will be the infima. Right now, this is the infima of your function. This is the infima of your function. Okay, now what we are doing? We are finding a number nearer to this infima. We are finding one number nearer to infima, say x double dash, such that difference between fx double dash and this m is less than by epsilon by 2. Nearer number I am searching, right? Therefore, what we have found, fx double dash strictly less by m plus epsilon by 2. Let me call it as statement number 3. Therefore, two particular points we have selected such that fx dash is greater by m minus epsilon by 2 and fx double dash is less than by m plus epsilon by 2. Or if I want to write in greater than form, I can write minus fx dash is greater by minus m minus epsilon by 2. I will call this as statement number 3. Okay, now what the job we will do? We will add these two numbers 2 and 3. Adding 2 and 3 give us fx dash minus fx double dash is greater by capital M minus epsilon by 2. Whether it is plus minus epsilon by 2 minus m minus epsilon by 2. Therefore, what is the subtraction we are getting? Capital M minus small m minus epsilon. Okay, and this is equally true for any value. Therefore, one can write for modulus minus fx dash minus fx double dash is greater by m minus epsilon. Okay, let me call this as statement number 4. Now look at our statement number 1. What statement 1 says that for all x1, x2 in the closed interval AB, mod of the function values is less equal by m minus m. That is, m minus m is the upper bound of the set. But here we have found two numbers x dash or x double dash in the closed interval AB such that difference between their function values is greater by m minus epsilon. That is, if I subtract a number epsilon from the right hand side, a small positive number, if I subtract from the right hand side, this will not become the upper bound. This will not be an upper bound. Check now. Because here it is greater than. Therefore, this is not an upper bound. Therefore, subtracting a small positive number epsilon from m minus will not become or will not be the upper bound. Therefore, we can conclude that m minus m will be least among the all upper bounds. Okay, thus from 1 and 4, it implies that if you have a doubt on this, you can ask me. It implies that capital M minus m is an upper bound and a number less than m minus m can be a number less than cannot be an upper bound of the set mod fx1 minus fx2 x1 x2 in closed interval AB. M minus m is an upper bound, but a number less than this, because m minus epsilon is not an upper bound. If this cannot be an upper bound of the set, therefore capital M minus m is least of upper bounds. Correct now? Least among the all upper bounds. Therefore, I can say this is the suprema of the set mod fx1 minus fx2 provided x1 x2 in closed interval. Hence the proof. Yes, students, if you have a doubt on this section, you can ask me. Two theorems we have completed today. The theorem we have left in the last lecture and this one. Capital M minus M is the oscillations of the bounded function on an closed interval AB. Is the supremum of the set mod fx1 value. Difference between the function values for all the points in the closed interval AB. In the next lecture, we will go for proving the integrability of product and quotient and modulus of the integrable function. Let us stop for today. Thank you for watching the lecture. If you have a doubt, you can ask me. Okay, thank you.